Welcome to the Elusive Truth with Rich and Larry. Well, once again, I'm flying solo. Larry's out trying to make a living in this chaotic world that we live in, known as Clown World. January 2024, what a hoot. And February, here we go, right into it. Unbelievable. Larry will be with us shortly, though. Let's get back in today's favorite little topic, and the border. What in the heck is going on? This is getting crazier and crazier by the minute. The Democrats, and even the Republicans, are showing us their true value. They don't care about this. I don't know. I'm going to play you a clip here from Fox News. I have a bunch of Fox News clips today. This is what the media is allowed to tell us, and so you got to take it for a grain of salt. But it does make a little bit more sense. But Biden administration, the border, Texas, this whole 9 yards, it's absolutely crazy. And apparently a spending package just got approved in the Senate. And wait till you hear the BS in this one. They used to call that pork fat during the 80s. Do you remember that? Now they just call it a bipartisan accomplishment, especially when you hear what the bill is all about. This is just crazy. So I'm going to start off with some of the highlights here for you. The Senate approved $11.8 billion in spending. Number one, it says it allows 5,000 immigrants in per day entry into the United States, 1.8 million a year. Otherwise, it'll get shut down, some kind of crazy mathematical computation, which you're going to hear more about later. There's a provision in the bill that lets the president suspend the shutdown authority. $60 billion to support the Ukraine, $14.1 billion to Israel, $2.4 billion to support Central Command operations in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, another $10 billion in humanitarian aid for Gaza, West Bank, and the Ukraine. There's no money for Hawaii, Ohio, the American citizens, New York City, and Chicago. My goodness, we can name hundreds of places that are desperate in need of money. Just unbelievable. So, Fox News Live. This is Newt Gingrich. Remember that guy? Oh my goodness, we're getting into crazy stuff here. But he is exposing the dark side of the border deal. This is from Fox News Live. Have a listen.
Newt, very quickly, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has said this Senate deal, the outlines of it have leaked out, is dead on arrival. Do you agree with what he's saying, given the fact that it does not limit Biden's ability to parole people into the country, which could be obviously still in the millions?
Look, I've been an active Republican my whole life. Every once in a while, part of the party becomes suicidally stupid. That bill is suicidally stupid. It makes no sense. I will oppose it every way I can, and I hope that every Republican activist in the country will oppose it. It is a total sellout, and it's just dumb. I mean, it's like having an absolute winning hand and saying, please, can I just lay these down and lose the game anyway? I mean, all they got to do is say, we want to stop everything now. Not this. I mean, when I first heard that it has 5,000 people a day gets to come in, and that doesn't count as illegal immigration, I thought, these guys have got, I don't know what they're drinking, but it's not good.
That's a start. What are they drinking? What are they breathing as well? Craziness. For my next clip, though, I have, can you believe that? I mean, Newt Gingrich, who'd have known? I mean, I agree with him for once, but that's besides the point. See, now we're getting off news topic and getting more into opinion, and that's what people don't understand. Anyway, Timcast. Biden calls on Alaska National Guard to stand against Texas. Is this really America? Is this the United States? But have a listen. He'll clear up some other craziness that's going on with this bill, the border bill. Have a listen.
The crisis on the southern border is growing. We're now getting word that Alaska will be deploying National Guard to Texas to help secure the border. At the same time, 14 governors gathered in Texas to assert their right to defend their states and their borders and stop an invasion of this country. At the same time, news is breaking about the alleged bipartisan border deal, which is in fact more funding for Ukraine, Israel, and less funding for the border. Don't get me wrong, the bill itself does have money technically for immigration issues, but the funding goes to NGOs. The bill guarantees the Biden administration the right to bring in 5,000 plus illegal immigrants per day. And when that threshold is met, it just moves them to ports of entry instead of illegal crossings. Make no mistake, this bill is not a border security bill. It is codifying the legal right of Joe Biden to strip the states of their power so they cannot defend themselves from waves of illegal immigration. It would fund illegal immigration. It would overwhelmingly, to the tune of $60 billion, fund war in Ukraine. And it is an ultimate betrayal by Republicans in the Senate.
Thank you, Tim. You can watch the rest of that on YouTube, Timcast. He does all sorts of news events. Just to give you a taste of what's going on, I mean, this is a bigger deal than most people think. The border is much broader. It's not just about the border. It's about the corruption in our government and this violation or this attack against our Constitution, because the president definitely is not upholding this. To get more insight on the actual border bill, we're going to go back to Fox News, and this is called They Got Rolled. McConnell, the GOP, shredded over the border bill. Let's have a listen.
So inside the bill, it's $60 billion in Ukraine aid, $14 billion for Israel, $10 billion in humanitarian aid, $5 billion for our Indo-Pacific partners. That leaves $20 billion for the borders, both north and south. That's not a border bill.
Look, I have spent so much of my time in the last 3 years covering the border. And in talking to all of the agents from the rank and file all the way up to the senior leadership, they're not happy with this. And any agent will tell you, sure, we'd love more money. But what we really need beyond money, manpower, technology is we need some policy to change and to walk back. The way we got into this problem is that this administration favored a catch and release process that had no consequences. And when you hear members of Congress talk about there are already laws on the books, you do. Mm-hmm. Title 8, USC 1325, they'll tell you simply makes it a felony to cross the border. Now you're in a situation where early this morning before 5 a.m., my phone was dinging at 4:30 in the morning, and clearly agents are getting up. An agent that's down on the border said, this seems to me to send a message to the world that says, come on down. We're letting in 4,999 a day. Now, Senator Langford's arguing that there's a lot of good stuff in this bill and that that's not the case. That's being misinterpreted. But at the same time, you see things, language like that, and you worry, why didn't it address things like the actual laws currently on the book and move to a remain in Mexico policy, which makes everyone who wants to claim asylum. You can walk at any time of the day to a legal port of entry and claim asylum, and you may or may not get past the initial interview. But the process of crossing illegally en masse and declaring asylum and being paroled into the U.S. is a new problem the country has had that began under this administration. Right. And that fundamental part of the crisis is what every border official is saying has got to change. And that doesn't seem to change in this. By the way, one more point. If you think for a moment the cartels won't choose to find another way to exploit it and go to a metering system to bring their numbers down.
I'm sure they're already on it.
Tell me, think again.
Yeah, they're already on that because they know that we're going to have to do something eventually. Maybe it'll be under a Republican president, but they know some change has to be coming, even if it's what the Democrats put out. Kayleigh, it's the numbers game. It's the shell game that is so disingenuous. And people really have to look at this. They're stuck on the 5,000 number. I'm stuck on 8,500 because that also is supposed to trigger something. But it's a 7-day average. So if you have 8,500 on one day, but you have 1,000 on the next day because you put some attention there, your average is going to be lower. I mean, this is a shell game. And again, the cartels already know this.
Yeah, to your point, the worry about the cartels gaming the system, that's a really interesting point. Look, bottom line here, so much is being said about this bill. We have a derelict, lawless president. There are laws on the book in the Immigration and Nationality Act. You just cited some federal laws that our president is choosing not to enforce. We have a president who decided to light the border on fire. That is what he did in his first 100 days, 94 executive actions to roll away the Trump-era border policies. We are here not because of a lack of a comprehensive immigration reform. We are here because we have a president who simply doesn't care, who enables people coming across our border, who enables the cartels, who enables the human traffickers. That is the problem, not the lack of a bill. Now, Senator Langford would say this puts a mandatory activation requirement on a lawless president. I heard him make that argument. So that part is true. But we have a president who disregards the law. We have a president who cuts down razor wire in Texas. So until you fix the guy at the top, the executive, Joe Biden, you don't fix the problem.
I want to hear real quickly from Congresswoman Kat Cammack of Florida on Last Hour on the Focus. She had this to say about the bill.
This is not a border security package. This is a Ukraine package. This is aid for Palestinians package. This is assistance to Arab partners package. This is not border security. This is a way for them to parole people into the United States faster. You are not securing the border in this package, and we would do well not to lie to the American people and try to sell them on that.
Molly, I see you nodding.
Well, it's very interesting to hear Kat Cammack talk this way, because what I'm hearing from various people on both the House and the Senate side is extreme anger about Republican participation in this border package. You saw, Joe Biden said, please pass this bill. Chuck Schumer said, this is a great bill. Mayorkas, currently about to be impeached for mishandling the border, says this is a great bill. What people don't understand is what were Republicans having to do with this? Chuck Schumer also said he has never worked so closely on any piece of legislation with Mitch McConnell as this package. And it shows, because it doesn't actually do anything on the border, but it does give $60 billion to Ukraine. Mitch McConnell said that's the most important policy priority for Republican voters. I think Republican voters have responded to that by showing why he is the least popular politician in this country. So it's kind of a watershed moment for Republicans. Like, they don't have a lot of power in the Senate, but they do have Mitch McConnell, who's supposed to be very good at negotiating this stuff. He puts Langford in, who completely gets rolled. Sorry, but he does. And you're not seeing, you see Steve Daines saying this is an electoral disaster for Republicans. It doesn't make sense that a party that wants to win or lead the country would participate in this. And that's why you're seeing it dead on arrival in the House, but also not seeing a lot of Republican senators sign it.
I also think that the kitchen sink element of it is so obvious, right? To your point. So Washington Post, for example, is touting this as saying, well, this would be the most comprehensive immigration reform passed in decades. Exactly to your point, all they're interested in is having that headline be put forth and having that box be checked, right? The first is that it moves asylum claim decisions away from immigration judges and instead into the hands of just asylum claim officers. And here's why that's... Yes, exactly. And the second point about that I think it shows, a second message. So what used to be a very credible and very sacred system in this country, immigration, the concept that people would take their citizenship and applications to live here so seriously, and that we take it so seriously too. That's the honor that we accord it. Now, we just need hands. Here, you guys, you step in.
It's a great point. Can I weigh in on that?
Of course,
the first interview I ever did with Alejandro Mayorkas was when he was the director of USCIS. So you're taking the decision on deciding the claims, adjudicating claims, away from immigration judges and an ICE prosecutor and putting it in the hands of a USCIS person. That's what this bill does.
You know what's going to happen now.
And when I interviewed Mayorkas at USCIS, we finished the interview at the Library of Congress when he was swearing in new citizens. And I asked him at the time, this is all on camera if you go back 10 plus years, I said, how do people that are getting sworn in, becoming citizens right now in this moment feel about those that skip the line and come illegally? He said, they're very angry.
Yeah.
And it's just an interesting change in the way the public views these things.
I want to get Donald Trump's voice in here. Former President Donald Trump spoke with Maria Bartiromo about the crisis at the southern border and who really is coming across. Let's watch together.
You're going to have to deport a lot of them. It's not sustainable. And now you look, these countries are very smart. I know every one of the leaders of the countries for the most part. The presidents, the dictators, I know them all. I know the kings, the queens, I know them all. These are smart people. These are streetwise people. It makes sense that they're taking people out and sending them up in caravans to the United States. And it's not just South America. It's from Africa, from Asia, from all over the world. Asia. Yeah. I mean, from all over the world. From China, there are 28,000 people in the last few months. 28,000. That's what's he doing? Building an army? And they were mostly men, almost all men, from the age of 18 to 25. So what's that all about?
So what's interesting, too, about what the president is saying, even if this bill were to pass in any form, you and I both know that it would take years to put any sort of asylum process, whether it's tougher, whether it's a shorter period, together. I mean, years. So why isn't it being talked about? And what have you heard on the Hill about just stopping it now? Just shut the border down now. Maybe a year, maybe only 90 days. And what I'm hearing back is Democrats wouldn't even entertain the idea that it was dead on arrival, so to speak.
And I'm hearing we don't have the resources or the mechanisms to start doing that.
They can't shut down the border. So why is it in this bill that they think that they can shut down the border on a moment's notice when 8,500 people cross the border?
That's a debate we hope we hear. And by the way, the other part of this is that there's concerns from officials that as soon as this were to get passed, if it were, you would have pro-migrant groups sue over the arbitrary number to try and stop its implementation.
Absolutely. All right, boy. Well, this will continue because they haven't even gotten to the point now where they're negotiating in the House.
That barely scratched the surface of the border issue. I mean, wow, we're about to feel it way worse than you can imagine. And can you believe they let President Trump speak? A little bit on him? That was crazy. The news is warming up to him a lot more, trying to get this country back into gear. But again, I'm telling you, this border is way bigger than you think it is. I mean, you've heard about the stuff that's going on in New York City, Chicago, even Denver. They're being overrun by migrants and the millions and billions of dollars that's costing to house them and the treatment that they're getting compared to regular citizens or other homeless it's unbelievable. But for my next bit, again, Fox News, Bill Maher calls out Biden. This is all so silly. I'm telling you, it's crazy. We're going to talk about TikTok. And again, if you haven't heard about the NYPD, they were assaulted while trying to arrest somebody by a couple migrants. And basically, they were arrested but let go, and they have fled New York. Oh, I'm telling you, what did they expect? This is just crazy. Anyway, we're going to dive more into this. Have a listen. It starts to open up your eyes and seeing how broad this is going to be. This is going to be the number one topic for the presidential election this year because it's so important, and we're just starting to get a little taste of it now. That means something else is happening that we're unaware of. But anyway, okay, enough of me rambling. Back to Fox News. Bill Maher calls out the Biden administration. This is all so silly. Have a listen.
Well, critics also are pointing out that President Biden already has the executive power to stop the border crisis. Well, you just saw Aisha was giving us a little bit of that coverage. Let's move on. Fox News contributor Byron York wrote this: the man who broke the border says the border is broken, and he is the one to fix it. He wants the authority to shut down the border when it becomes overwhelmed. All of that is in quotes. He hasn't used the authority he already has. Late night host Bill Maher.
Joe Biden saying, you know what, if you just give me a new law, why doesn't the president can fix this? He already has the existing laws.
And Border Patrol will tell you that right to your face.
I need a piece of paper from Congress to deal with the border. No, you already have that.
Republican Congresswoman Kat Cammack of Florida, member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. I want to start, first of all, with just busting some myths. So, and if we had that from Aisha's story, you would see it's an average of 5,000 a day. That means that it could go up to 8,500 on any given day, as long as the rest of the days of the week were less than that, and the average are 5. I don't know that that moves the ball down the road all that much when we had 10,000 a day just a short time ago.
Yeah, it's exactly, Harris. It's good to see you. I am absolutely shocked that anyone is even considering this garbage package. And as you mentioned, Biden is going to be putting more pressure on the Senate and the House, really going to the American people, trying to sell this knockoff of a border deal. It's like they were trying to sell us on Gucci, but really it's the package that the guy around the corner in the alley pulled out of his trunk. That is basically the equivalent of what this border bill is. Fear not. He certainly is going to be going to TikTok to get his talking points. This is not a border security package. This is a Ukraine package. This is aid for Palestinians package. This is assistance to Arab partners package. This is not border security. This is a way for them to parole people into the United States faster. You are not securing the border in this package. And we would do well not to lie to the American people and try to sell them on that. They already are pissed. We need to make sure that they understand that this is not a border security package, because they know that it's not. They can read. We all can read. It's in black and white. This is not border security.
You know, over the weekend, everybody was waiting for this thing to drop. And it was Friday. They didn't want it to be the late night, Friday night news dump. And then it became Sunday, late Sunday. And all of that time, that gave a lot of you on the Hill to really maybe talk about what would need to be in it. Because it was, we already knew some parts of it. What does this have to look like once it gets to the House? Is there any part of it that you say, yeah, we can work with that?
First and foremost, it has to be the border has to be the priority in this bill. And you can see just based on the numbers that Ukraine has a significant lion's share of the funding element. Right. And the funding element that goes to the border is just to increase the processors who are moving people through faster. It offers citizenship to Afghan parolees. It creates more visas. It's basically just increasing the incentives for people to come here illegally and reward them for engaging in illegal action. We passed our border security package last year. It's called HR 2, and it actually secures the border. It addresses the human trafficking at the border. It addresses narcotics. It addresses the humanitarian, the public health, and national security challenges at the border. It's a real border package. That's what would have to happen for us to actually agree to any sort of border security package.
So you mentioned TikTok.
Yeah.
Let's not miss it. It's another issue that needs to be addressed now. 60 Minutes with this report on illegal immigrants using Chinese-owned apps to cross the border. I mean, TikTok is China's. Watch this.
We wondered how all of these migrants knew about this particular entryway into California. The answer was in their hands.
How do you know about that? Douyin. Okay, TikTok.
Oh, you learned on TikTok. Yeah. TikTok is a social media platform created in China. The post we found had step-by-step instructions for hiring smugglers and detailed directions to that hole we visited.
Unbelievable.
Wow. I mean, Harris, this is just incredible. We've known about the social media companies being complicit with human trafficking. All you have to do on any one of those platforms is type in Cruzando la Frontera, and you will find traffickers who are willing to take you to anywhere in the United States for a price. And you actually get the phone numbers to call, the pricing, how to send the money. And again, when we called out the social media companies, they said, well, we need to be sensitive to those that are trying to escape persecution, that have legitimate human rights issues. But they totally ignore the fact that women and children are being trafficked and abused at the border. They don't want to acknowledge that. So this whole TikTok thing is no surprise. And let us not forget that Joe Biden just last week, he suspended LNG exports because of a TikTok trend. Our adversaries know that the White House is taking its marching orders from TikTok. That is dangerous stuff. We have got to get control and put the real adults in charge, because this ain't it.
All right, we'll move to this. We're learning more about last weekend's vicious attack on New York police officers in Times Square, and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection reportedly issued warrants for some of those suspects. A source is telling Fox that some of them may have fled to California, another sanctuary state, using fake names and taxpayer-funded bus tickets. Well, yeah, I mean, they're here, and they have access to things that are given to people who are here legally. They get that free transportation. The policies of Manhattan's far-left district attorney Alvin Bragg got those suspects out of jail without bail. Zero bail. He now says grand jury charges are coming this week. Well, how's he going to catch them? Reports of yet another benefit for these families illegally coming to our nation, a new Big Apple program that would dole out $53 million and prepaid credit cards for those sheltered in New York City hotels to buy food and other supplies. So they could have stuck around and, engaged in whatever was free here and then got the free ticket to go west. Congresswoman.
Oh, man, Harris, I don't even know where to start. You've heard me say it 1,000 times before. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. All these blue states and cities, they're really reaping what they have sown. But I think 50 Cent, the rapper, he really called it all out for people to see how ridiculous this is. I mean, when you have 50 Cent saying that maybe Trump was right to be as tough as he was when it came to border security, that should be a wake-up call across America to all the Democrats who think that they have the African-American vote in the bag, and particularly young people in the bag. But don't forget, Harris, that they being the liberal left, they raided the $130 million emergency assistance to homeless veterans pot of money and gave it to the illegals for bus tickets and plane tickets and hotel rooms. $130 million for homeless veterans directly rerouted to illegals. This is nothing new. We shouldn't be surprised. But the arrogance when we see those illegals flipping off cameras, it's because they know that there is no one stopping them. They have no fear. And this is what happens when you have George Soros-funded DAs, when you have blue cities and states that think that they are not to account for anything. They think that they are above the law. They can make their own laws, and they are reaping what they have sown.
Well, it's interesting. They didn't go to Florida.
They would know better.
Yeah, they would know better. I mean, even your husband is part of the law enforcement and EMT community down there. You don't mess with Florida. It's much like Texas.
Don't mess with Florida, man.
We'll get into the bill more as we read more of it this week, and it heads to the House. Thank you.
Are you starting to see what I mean? This is much bigger than we could ever believe. I mean, TikTok showing people how to get into the country illegally. I'm telling you, it's clown world. And we want to give millions and millions of dollars to these lawbreakers, get them set up on their housing, get them, Visa cards so they can some food, clothing, whatever it needs. Or she said supplies. I mean, my goodness. And of course, we're doing this. We're letting them with our taxes. Oh my goodness. It just keeps getting crazier. And now with the fugitives that have left New York City after attacking police officers, just unbelievable. Way bigger. I'm telling you, this is just a start. This is just scratching the surface of the problems that we're about to face. There's so much that we don't even know what's going on. We got one more for you. Fox News again. They don't care. The public outrage grows at Democrat leaders over this New York City police fiasco. It's getting out of hand, but have a listen.
Only one suspect in the brutal beating of the 4 NYPD officers last week is currently held on a $15,000 bail. Investigators say they're still trying to track down all those who took part in the attack. Some of the men were arrested and released with no bail, but officials say the worst offenders are still on the run. I want to bring in New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. It's great to have you here, and New York City Council member Vicky Palladino, because this story is getting a lot of national attention. Do we know where these migrants are?
Well, basically, rumor has it, because they're free, they're out. No charges, no nothing, they're out. Try to find them. Rumor has it, California. That's what they say. How did they get from New York to California? They are free to roam as they please. This is
How mad is the city council or not?
How mad is the city council? I don't think the city council's moved at all. Because had it not been covered in the news, and I'm sitting here before you today, they could care less.
So what we're learning, New York Post is report. We thought on Friday that a faith-based group, of which, so people who don't live in New York, just so you know, the faith-based groups they run the interface for all the migrants throughout the city, and they help them in all the different boroughs. We thought on Friday they were helped by a faith-based group to get on a bus. Apparently that's not the case. The Post is reporting that police have an idea of where the men are. I think here's the fundamental question. If you're a Democratic leader in the city of New York today, what do you want to do? Do you want to allow these men to go ahead and dissolve back into the border across into Mexico and the story's forgotten? Or do you want to arrest them, apprehend them, bring them back to New York City before a judge, and get weeks of terrible publicity for awful policies?
Well, I know that New Yorkers want to see these individuals held accountable. And I think it goes back to the laws that Bill de Blasio passed in 2014 that prohibits NYPD from cooperating with Immigration and Customs Enforcement to have these individuals deported. Literally, a detainer request can be on any individual, including the one who committed murder, by the way, at the Roosevelt Migrant Center. And they will release that individual back onto the street if they're not going to jail. And instead of deporting that individual and working with ICE, they've actually denied every single detainer request. And we know that there are at least been 1,000 individuals at these migrant encampments that have committed crimes in the city, everything from assault to robbery to grand larceny to stabbing and a murder. And these cops weren't the first to be assaulted. People should know that there was a woman who slapped a police officer outside a shelter. There was also a DUI arrest of a migrant that ended up biting the finger of a NYPD sergeant. And these people are back on the street. I mean, somebody who pickpocketed 8 times arrested, released back onto the street to go to one of these luxury hotel rooms.
We saw the governor of New York on that subway car last week say, if you mess with our cops, you will pay the price. Will she follow up on her own words?
The one thing the governor of the state of New York has the ability to do is to actually fire people like Bragg, and she could do away with the law that was passed in 2017, 2014. This is all within her grasp. They're not doing anything. Ask yourself why. Why aren't they doing anything? I've held the governor of this state accountable for every single thing that's happened with the immigration and the illegal aliens flooding, invading our city since this started. Okay? And yet they all talk the talk. Nobody wants to actually do what needs to be done. And you brought up a good point. As a Democrat leader in a city and state such as New York, don't you want to actually do something so that there's finally a decent headline about you? No, they don't care. This is a whole new New Yorkers. Now, back in March of 22, that's how they were titling them. The new New Yorkers. So as 400,000 New Yorkers left the city of New York.
We got new ones.
We got new ones.
The other thing is, Congresswoman, that Mayor Adams has this new pilot program, right? $53 million that would go on cards, basically. This is the mayor. These would be debit cards. He says, not only will this money provide families with the ability to purchase fresh food for their culturally relevant diets and the baby supplies of their choosing, but the pilot program is expected to save New York City more than $600,000 per month or more than $7.2 million annually. I mean, does he have a point? Is this a better way to try to deal with the situation?
We could actually save taxpayers billions of dollars if he just stops offering any of these free incentives. That's what's attracting people to come to New York City. So the president may have created this crisis with his executive orders, but our mayor and our governor keep helping it perpetuate it by offering all these things. And again, somebody gets arrested, they get released back onto the street, they go back to their luxury hotel room paid by the taxpayers, and then they're going to receive a debit card on top of it.
500 migrant families initially. If it's successful, they're going to get 150,000 migrants here. Quick thought on
Once again, $7.3 billion. We are over budget right now. $7.3 billion. How much more are we going to do of this, honestly? And with the city council that we have right now overriding anything that the mayor is trying to do to help protect our law enforcement is falling flat. We call upon the governor of the state of New York. I call upon my city council. It's time for real action and real common sense here, and we're not getting it.
All this big money just to take care of this problem. And we know 30% is the only thing that actually gets to them, hopefully. The rest is all pocketed by the politicians and the greedy infrastructure. But unbelievable, once again. I was going to close it at this, but I do have one more piece. It's just a few minutes. Again, Fox Business. Crazy how Fox is getting this information out here. Denver close to the breaking point over the migrant crisis. So the border, because of being wide open and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of them are entering our cities. This is the ramifications of what's going on. And again, we are the ones paying for this. And they're taking away money from our vets that need the treatments or just general care. They're taking it away from our schools. All sorts of budgets are getting hacked to pay for the migrants. And what really burns me up is when you see those pictures of them giving the finger and not caring and demanding that we take care of them. And this is their right. And it's going to get way worse. This is just the start, folks. So here we go. Fox Business. Denver's close to breaking point over the migrant crisis. Have a listen.
Illegal migrants in Times Square. Oh, I'm sorry, asylum seekers seen beating 2 police officers. One source telling Fox they were in custody for 3 hours before being released back onto the streets again without bail. All of them young men, ages 19 to 24. One of them has also been accused of punching and biting a worker at Nordstrom Rack who caught this illegal shoplifting.
This isn't an isolated incident any way else look at it or spin it. Just last week, a border agent left bloodied after smugglers assaulted him at the border with rocks.
Back in the cities, reports of theft and sex work. These are criminals who are coming into this country. Pickpocketers, the latest thorn in the NYPD side. One officer telling the New York Post, quote, now we have to deal with people who arrive here with no means of support, no legal means of working or opportunity. So I don't see how this should come as a surprise to anyone.
Chicago, Boston, Denver, all overwhelmed by the influx of migrants, pushing the cities to the brink and shifting some of the burdens to the suburbs. Which brings us to our next story.
Denver Public Schools falling nearly $18 million short in funding for students as it sees more and more migrants enroll each week. The local hospital system not getting paid for $136 million worth of services, a large portion of that coming from, you guessed it, illegal migrants.
And soon the sanctuary city may be anything but a sanctuary.
Our city is very close to its breaking point now. We don't want to cut core city services, but right now we're in this dilemma where we can't get any help from the federal government on work authorization or on controlling entry or on the ability to actually provide resources to cities.
Let's bring in Denver radio host Ross Kaminsky. Ross, good to see you. Thanks for being with us. Just give us your reaction to what you're seeing in Denver with this illegal migration.
You know, it's really out of control. I don't say it as hyperbole. You know, Denver, it's funny, they never called themselves a sanctuary city, but they implemented every sanctuary city policy. And you know who knew it? The illegal aliens knew it. And Governor Abbott of Texas knew it. Like, well, just because you're not calling yourself a sanctuary city, you're still doing all of that. So why don't you have some of them? And, you know, we think of ourselves here as, I used to live in Chicago and New York. I know what big cities are like. Denver's a small city. We don't think of ourselves really in that ball game. And here we are getting, on a percentage basis, more illegal aliens than the other cities. And you showed some of those numbers. I think one other that's worth mentioning, the city of Denver itself is talking about having to spend 10 to 15% of its full city budget next year on services for illegal immigrants.
That's atrocious, Ross. It's atrocious for any town or city in this country. But is anything going to change in the way people vote, in the policies that enabled this to happen? Because, by the way, we saw these police officers getting beat up. A lot of the people they're letting across the border are criminals from Venezuela, Colombia. 3 of them picked up pickpocketing in the West Village here in New York City over the weekend. Will anything change in terms of the way people vote in Denver?
You know, it's a great question. I mean, we've seen some change in voting, even in places like San Francisco, which is even crazier than Denver. So I can't say no for sure, but I also won't say that I'm optimistic. And I think part of the problem is that Mayor Mike Johnston, who I really like, he's a smart guy, he's well-intended, but the left seems to keep coming with more magnets. And when you know, we're supposed to have a safety net in this country, but when you turn it into a hammock for people just to come lounge around in, right, that turns it really into an attractive thing. And you start putting in these things, hey, we're going to give you free housing and free this and free that, and we're setting up a nonprofit. There's a newcomers fund. It's privately funded, but the city is encouraging people to donate to it. And we're just doing these things. We're saying, you're welcome here. And I don't want to be mean. I'm not racist. I'm not hateful, but you're just not doing anything to change the incentives. So I don't see what's going to change.
You know, Ross, real quick, I know that there's so many people coming that there's tents and people in shelters, and so the city wants to move them out more quickly, and they want Joe Biden to give them work permits. But if you give 30,000 new people work permits, you very well are going to move them out of tents, but you're going to put lower income folks who live in Denver in tents because they're going to lose their jobs. This doesn't make any sense to me, looking out for migrants, but not for the people that actually are Americans and live in your city.
Well, this is straight to that incentive thing I was just talking about, Sean. I mean, if you say, all right, we're going to hire all of you. And in fact, the mayor is already, even without work permits, he's encouraging people to hire the illegal aliens. And I suppose as long as they're here, it's better that they're working than just, I mean, I don't know if you've seen this in the news. We have a whole new thing of squeegee guys in the streets in Denver because they don't have any other jobs and they're hanging out in the parking lots of Home Depot. And just to be clear, I'm not mad at the illegal aliens. They want a better life. I'm mad at the federal government that has invited them in, encouraged them to come, and is not doing anything to help us.
Ross, I don't like squeegee guys. I'm just going to tell you that right up front. They scratch your windows and...
The squeegee guys. I remember their rise in the 80s when poor young men tried to make money, you know, spitting on your windshield, wiping it off and looking at you for money and then getting violent if you didn't pay them. Just crazy. But imagine if that was our main problems of the society, is dealing with squeegee guys. I just worry about what we don't know, and it's going to come hit us all at once. Unbelievable. But it shows you it's going to get way worse. We're going to all be paying for this. I hate saying that. But we better start looking into this, and we better start getting some results here quickly, because they're just trying to bankrupt the United States. They're trying to put everybody out of business. And as of right now, the U.S. citizen is at, we're being canceled. So, good news is Project Bluebeam's already in full effect. Do you know that alien and UFO occurrences have increased in 2024? Well, we always like to leave on a positive note here, but this is from Factomenial. The truth is out. It's just a quick little bit. And here's what they have to say about this UFO sightings. Have a listen.
100 UFO sightings over the past year, some of which they fear may be the creations of foreign governments trying to spy on the U.S. But the thing is, these UFO sightings aren't limited to the U.S. And more reports of bizarre flying objects are coming in from different parts of the world. Can all these objects be dismissed as aerial spies or weather balloons? Or is there another explanation for them? Explore some of the most intriguing UFO sighting reports from across the globe. Pakistan is a versatile land of high mountain peaks, lush green valleys, and a scorching desert. And while it is home to many controversies, UFO sightings aren't one of them. This is why it was surprising when a UFO hunter managed to capture footage of a mysterious object in the sky over the country's capital, Islamabad. Arslan Warich, a resident, spotted the unidentified flying object over the city's skies while landing his drone. Immediately, the extraterrestrial enthusiast captured the bizarre event on camera, recording a 13-minute footage that set the internet abuzz with speculation.
So if you want to get more information on that, Factomenial, The Truth is Out. It's on YouTube. Look it up. Got a few more stories to go along with that. Lastly, I have Lab 360, Unbelievable Aliens and UFO Sightings of January 2024. Again, crazy year. Here we go, folks.
With the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023 coming into existence, alien and UFO hunters now firmly believe that the government is definitely hiding something from us. A lot of people around the world are quick to call UFO and alien sightings a hoax. But the US government taking UFO sightings seriously has added more credibility to the matter. And to make things more interesting, there have already been 3 alien encounters in the first month of the year 2024. Are these just hoaxes or pranks done by someone to get viral fame? Or are extraterrestrials finally making their presence felt to us humans? Here are the 3 best UFO and alien sightings in January 2024. Welcome to Lab 360. It's time to explore.
Lab 360, Unbelievable Aliens and UFO Sightings of January 2024. Go check them out. Got some great stories. The crazy thing is, it's easier to get information on UFOs and Bigfoot than information on the border and what our government's up to. Check it out. The Elusive Truth is out there. I appreciate y'all for being here. Love you guys. Higher vibrations. Take care of each other. And Larry will be with us next episode. Oh, man. Wait till you hear what he's got to say. You thought 2024 was crazy now? Larry will be back with some crazy info. So take care. God bless. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.